Hello, Geminis, Gemini risings. Welcome to your 2025 forecast from my mind, my world, my visions. Hopefully, I can help you out here. We'll talk about some of the narratives this year, some of the things that will be up on stage for you to deal with. I hope you're taking care of yourselves. A lot of activity in your world here the last 6 months since June of 2024. So much has happened in your mind. How much can you think of? How much can you do? No. The Geminis need to take a break too in order to function on all cylinders to work their magic. Trust me, I know this. So, saying that, let's jump into the forecast. I'll throw some dates to you, narratives, and a couple clues for you. All right? So, the beginning of the year, the planet Mars that deals with action, survival, the competitor, right? This is how we take action in our charts, the engine of our charts, where the will shows itself through the planet Mars has been started its retrograde motion, going backwards, not firing on all cylinders here at the end of the year in the sign of Leo. And then when we get to January 6th, it does this in the sign of Cancer here all the way to mid-April. And this movement or non-movement that Mars cannot do on all cylinders happens in your money house, the type of place in your world that how you create and generate your own personal resources, right? And your values connected to them. And they're up for major revamp here. So, I don't know how much purchasing you did during the holiday, and some of you Geminis are super clever on when to buy stuff. I know this. Maybe you did purchase a bunch of things here during November and December, but remember, your ruling planet Mercury was retrograded in Sagittarius, your opposite sign. Jupiter in Gemini has been in your sign for 6 months, pushing the overspending, pushing the outlook. I hope you were careful. And if you weren't, I think there's some lessons for you to understand here in the first couple months. I think too, though, a lot of times when Mars isn't going on all cylinders, something comes up to the surface or simmers or inflames out. And you have to watch your pocketbooks, so on and so forth, but also understand your connection to those in your world and life where you share resources and cash or the generation of possible gains with other people, the bank, the lawyers, your uncle. I don't know what they are in your world, but that is under review also. And you have to look at the way you stand and create your own resources and the ones that you're tied in with other people. Sometimes when you're tied in it with other people, you're dealing with fallout, right? I'm not necessarily saying you got major fallout happening, but I think a lot of it is by your own decision making in hand, and you have a chance to, I think too, by doing this and reworking this and redefining this area of your life where it actually gives you a sense of comfort in the end and grounds you, because you can flutter away and get completely scattered, and it'll affect different parts of your life, your nervous system, your sleeping patterns. But at the same time, it's nice to have a good bed to sleep on and the right sheet and a place or wherever you do make home that it's comfortable, right? So you can be quiet. Not a lot of people know that about you. They see the sociability. They see you running around, the chatting, almost so too much chatting the last 5 months. But we also know, well, at least I know, there is the alone place and the alone time. Right? And that is important. And where you do that alone time, where you do get that sense of comfort, I think is under a review place too. Okay, so saying that happens all the way into about April 18th, and then Mars will enter in the sign of Leo, which will affect the way your brain is creating things and the synapses, and I think it'll start flowing for you there. Huge moment here in February, the first week of February. Why? The planet Jupiter that deals with abundance, optimism, hope, faith in a sense, seeking of something, good times, good luck maybe, has been in the sign of Gemini since the end of May of last year. This happens every 12 years. And I think there's been a lot of good stuff that's happened to you. But I also think that the end of 2024 showed where things went too far, where it went overboard, right? With no container, no boundaries. And I think you've been learning here about what that means, about how to contain something. The tendency to do multiple things at the same time, you're gifted. You can do this. But I think it got pushed a little too hard. And Jupiter, being in Gemini, has done this and has been going backwards in the, retrograde in the sky here since the end of last year and all the way until we get to the symbolic date of February 4th, where Jupiter stops going backwards and then gets to push forward, which it likes to do. It's just going to take time for those engines to rev up. But here, again, we slowly, when we come out of the spring, are going to push forward, and I think this buoyancy is going to come back into your step. And I think everything that you learned at the end of last year into the beginning of this year of how you can contain your mind in the multiplicity of things, of how you do the juggling act, and if you bring discipline and structure and rules and find a certain pace to run at where you don't get blown out, I think serves you in the long run. It's a huge benefit. There will be benefits that come your way the farther we get into to Gemini birthday season. So you got to make sure, though, that you slow the F down. Pay attention to the lessons learned the last 3 or 4 months. Apply those lessons, discipline, boundaries. Maybe you don't do 5 things. Maybe you do 1 thing, possibly 2. Focus on that. I want you to pay attention to your mind and body connection too, and what your nervous system is telling you. If you've been bringing things into your life that are overloading your brain, start to eliminate those things if you haven't already. This will help you when it comes to the buoyancy and the multiplicity and your wings flapping the way they should. Okay, so saying that, Jupiter and Gemini, don't let this one go by. Really work that one. Okay, so basically we're moving into March and we have massive eclipses that are going to happen at that point that really affect you. The eclipses have been happening in the last year and a half in signs of Aries and Libra. Okay, which affected you. But I think these ones now, they're going to be in the signs of North Node Pisces, South Node Virgo. They're fellow mutable signs just like you. That means they're going to square off with you. These eclipses that happen in the spring and the other pair that are going to happen in the fall do affect your world. The one on March 13th is going to affect your home life and where you lay your head down. What that means. It could be family member themed. It could be your ancestry, the foundations and roots of whatever you stand on, whether it's now or the past. All of this up is for review, and something there, some sort of story is brewing there with these eclipses this year where something needs to be let go. It actually could be a move. It could be you moving at some point or contemplating it, or there's something going on in where you're living or in someone else's life where they're dealing with stuff like this. You could be helping others move multiple times. Whatever the case, something's going out the door. Something needs to leave. Something needs to be flushed away in this area of your life. You have to figure out exactly what it is, but the eclipses of March 13th, September 4th, are symbolic of this. They're 6 months away from each other. They're chapter markers in this story. Another chapter marker is September 7th too. This has to do with the career part of your chart, which I will get into in a second because there's so much that's happened there over the last several years. That's a theme too. Home, career, home. Okay, so saying that, that's how the eclipses will work for you in a very basic way. I also want to mention that one of the eclipses that happens this year on March 29th in Aries kind of is a story that's been dealing with an influx of energy and possible narrative story with the communities that you're involved in, with those people, situations, patrons, and helpers of your hopes, wishes, and dreams. I think there's a little something going on there for you, and this will come into play here in the summertime and eventually in 2026. Saying that, in the middle of this eclipse realm for all of March into the first week of April, Venus, the planet that deals with relationships, your values, your, in the sense, your senses, so on and so forth, and resources, money, will go backwards here in March, it will start its backward retrograde cycle in the sign of Aries, which deals with the communities that you're involved in. So there's some sort of revamping going on over there. There's some sort of thing that you need to review, and then it will go into your career house. So it moves from Aries to Pisces. The Aries part is your community place. The Pisces part is your career place. Mercury's going to do the same thing at that time, going retrograde. So you're always affected by Mercury retrogrades. Remember this, that you have this interesting story that is up for review and redefinition and revising, from your career place to how you deal with community and your status in community, your social status, your profession, your ambition, to the possible crew of people that support you or don't support you. There's a tie-in going on here, and all of this is up for review. So it's very important here, March and April, that you focus on these areas of your world, okay? And remember that when it comes from moving from here to there, career place to your community friends place, and back and forth, that you want to stay focused and you don't want to get blasted out. I think you're going to see who has your back, who supports you in these places, and be discerning there. Try not to play any trickster games in these areas. Let the information come to you, then decide which directions to walk and who you walk with when it comes to those who support your hopes and wishes and dreams. And also in your career chart, the restructuring that's been going on there and the responsibilities that you've needed to take on the last several years, we cannot run from them anymore. And you need to communicate to yourself and to other people who will support your progression in your career place, the achievements that you want to attain, and the reputation that means so much to you. Sometimes it's good to find a person like a mentor or a good boss or somebody. The other way this can work is the boss or the authoritative figure messes with your world, and you got to play the game, and you have to answer to the call of responsibility. Again, think about this. Career into community, community into career. The eclipses affect this too. All of this concentrated energy is happening in the springtime. You know, saying that, there's two other big planetary bodies in astrology. One of them is Neptune, that is the planet that deals with the collective unconscious, the dream, but also deals with dissolving things over the time, the illusions that come with what's real and what's not. And this planet, wherever it's at, it takes a long time to do its work in. And it's been in your career house here for more than a decade, slowly dissolving something, what is real and what is not, and how you pursue fame and your honors in your career sector, right? So saying that, it's not the only planet that's been there. That for the last 2 years, that planet Saturn, the authoritative planet, the planet deals with time and morality and reality and discipline and sometimes isolation. And you got to answer to the rules even if you don't like it. That has been in your career house too. So there's been major functioning going on there. That planet Neptune, that planet Saturn, they start to leave that place. And you start to go, all right, this is cool. I had to do my time and do my work, and I found out what is real and what is not. And, you know, Neptune will leave that place at March 30th. Saturn leaves it at the end of May. And you're like, okay, cool. I get a break from my career house. Sort of. Because those planets move away, but only temporarily. And it's in the fall where they both go back. Eventually, they go back in your career place. And that is the time. That is the time where we have our next round of eclipses that affect your home and career areas of your life. And you will have to answer to something again in the fall, especially September and October. You're not out of the woods yet in these areas in your life. So you have to take notes of what is happening. I mentioned earlier in the places in your chart, your career and family and your memories place, and how it's tied in to your career place. This is the mother-father place, by the way, how they go work in tandem. It's, so you will have to review this again in the second part of this year. It's only until 2026 where a lot of the focus there that in those areas leaves and moves to somewhere else, okay? So saying that, I wanted to mention in June, when the birthdays happen for Geminis, that planet Jupiter, the buoyant planet that was hopefully working on all cylinders here from February till June, it will leave your sign. Some of you, I think a lot of you are going to wish it doesn't go away at that point, but it does. And it actually leaves to go for 1 year into your money house, into your creative, or into how you create your resources place. And I started this forecast talking about the revamping going on and to be careful with your spending and your connection to other people and their resources, etc. And all of a sudden, you got a big planet that's going to come in there in June to intensify this area. Now, traditionally, Jupiter brings benefits, right? It brings abundance, sometimes overabundance. You hopefully in the beginning of this year, you figure it out how to create abundance in your life and knowing when to put the boundaries on overspending or overdoing. And if depending on who you are with this, with Jupiter coming into that place for a year in your money house, you could see some payoffs happening from 2025 mid-year to 2026 mid-year. It's not as easy as said as done, like I'm saying it. You have to gauge where you are with this, but it could be pretty good if you've been doing the work and if you've been staying focused and not completely scattered, not blowing your cash all over the place, but being conservative and understanding what it is to do, of the time that it takes and to generate your own resources. Earlier in the video, I talked about home and comfort, right? And this is in play again too. If you find stability, a place for you to regenerate, okay, for you to feel grounded, I think when it comes to a financial creation or resource creation, things will come easier. And you have to remember when you're bouncing around to come back to the home place, whatever that is for you, so you can start the cycle over again. So creation resources in that storyline runs more efficiently for you. You do get something there, but you got to flex the muscle. So saying that, we're going to get into something that I've been waiting to talk about on this video with you. And it's the hint of something amazing. It's the hint of wildness. It's the hint of unpredictability. And it's the planet of Uranus. And it will enter the sign of Gemini on July 7th, briefly, as a hint of what will be coming your way for 7 years starting in 2026. Gemini risings will be at the forefront of something new, of something crazy and erratic and wild for the rest of the world starting in 2026. And there's a hint of it this summertime in 2025. And I'm going to leave that as a little bit of mystery here because sometimes Gemini needs that little bit of something that they can ride. You know, like you're flying through the world and all of a sudden there's a new type of current for you to catch that you've never experienced before, but somehow is exhilarating. And some of you might not like it, right? Because you're used to flying around a certain way. But what if I were to tell you that this something coming your way down the line not only enhances your world, brings excitement, but actually could help change the world? Then what would you say to me, right? So Uranus and Gemini, a hint of it this summer. It will be tied in with the Pluto and Aquarius transit, and the air signs will be on stage for a long time here. And it's for us that people are going to be looking for information and the ingenuity, the flexibility that Gemini brings, the trickster qualities, all of it. I'm trying to say this in an exciting way to give you something, but also to understand that you have a responsibility. Being a Gemini, a message taker and a message deliverer, right? You have a responsibility. What are you doing it for? Where is the base core reason for your message message movement, right? Why do you do it? Is it to trick and manipulate for dark, nefarious purposes? Is it for the positive, for yourself and for the world? I really want you to understand this, because you have a heavy, or I won't say heavy, but in a pretty big piece of responsibility coming in your way the next couple years. And if you yield it in the right way, you could change the world. Okay. Nobody else in the other videos got that whole thing of Uranus and Gemini, but I'm feeling it. Okay. I want to mention two big deals here. On May 26th, that's when the new moon of the year for you in Gemini happens at 6 degrees. This is a pretty intense new moon because it actually deals with your home and career parts of your chart, right? So you're tied into this place. There's going to be, where do you stand? It's like career and home are on each side of you. Do you have to decide between one or the other? Can you somehow do both? You can, Gemini. You just got to figure out the way. But that theme will be on stage during the new moon here on the 26th. And on December 4th, at the end of the year, is the full moon in Gemini at 13 degrees. It's not as intense as the new moon, but I'll tell you, whatever happens in the end of May and June will kind of manifest and show the byproduct of the new moon here when the full moon happens on December 4th, and you'll be able to gauge that story. There's so much more I could talk about. There's so much more I could talk about with you Geminis, but sometimes you gotta know when to stop. You know what I mean? And let the words and the information simmer, and let the secrets and the mystery come through from Mount Olympus, and then you'll know which direction to fly. If it's your first time here, my name is Nicholas, Sparkles of Gold. Hit the subscribe button. Click on the bell and know when I go live. I'm spontaneous when I do that. I know you love that, Gemini rising, and I throw a lot of wild information and throw everyone off course in a good way. If you want to get some insight into your year, then talk to the Gemini. I got Mercury in Gemini. I run on this energy. I know it and I live it. I love talking to you Gemini risings, Gemini suns. I got the inside track. You can go to sparklesofgold.com or down below and you can see my booking link. Hit me up for a session. In the meantime, will you rest the wings? Will you? Will you just take a deep breath